All right, let's dive right into a really interesting, almost paradoxical question from a particular theological argument. Why would a perfect, eternal being ever need to inherit our messy, temporary universe? I mean, on the surface, it makes no sense, right? But there's actually a pretty deep logic to it. So let's unpack this cosmic plan together.
So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll really dig into the central question itself. Then we'll get to know the two main figures in this story and their specific jobs. After that, we'll figure out what's so broken about our universe that it needs this intervention in the first place, and then we'll walk through the whole mission from start to, well, to the grand finale.
Okay, so first things first, let's get right to the heart of this theological puzzle. I mean, really think about it. If you're a divine being, part of some perfect, timeless reality, why on earth would you get your hands dirty with our flawed, temporary universe? What's the point? Well, according to the argument we're looking at, it's not about ownership at all. It's about a mission of cosmic importance.
Okay, to really get this mission, we first have to understand the two main characters in this drama, because they have very, very different roles to play. So first up, you've got the first God. Think of this being as the ultimate reality, the final destination, the whole point of everything. This line of thought sees this God as the absolute beginning and the absolute end, the context for, well, for everything. And this verse right here, it paints this picture of a being that's totally outside our concept of time, not bound by past, present, or future. In this view, the first God is the destination that all of creation is supposed to be heading towards. So, if that's the first God, then who's the second God? Well, this is the active agent. This is the one who actually enters our universe, who gets down in the trenches, not to own the place, but to carry out a very specific job. And this is the crucial difference right here. You see, the first God is the ultimate destination, the is to come, while the second God is the active agent who makes it all happen. One is the perfect end state, and the other is the one who works inside our universe to get it there. Now you're going to want to pay close attention here because we're about to hit the most complex, maybe the most mind-bending part of this whole argument. It claims that the second God exists in two different states at the exact same time. Okay, so here's how this paradox works. Inside our universe, within time and space, the second God takes on the role of a creature, totally submissive to the first God. But, and this is a huge but, this is just a temporary job description, it's what's needed for the mission. Outside of our universe, in eternity, they are completely equal. This dual nature is the absolute key that unlocks how this whole plan is even possible.
Right, so that leads to the obvious question, why go through all this trouble? Why is this massive divine intervention even needed? What's fundamentally wrong with our universe that it requires such a complicated fix?
Well, the way this argument frames it, our universe isn't just a neutral backdrop. It was created with a fundamental flaw, a kind of bug in the system, a deep problem that means it can never become perfect on its own. And this framework boils that flaw down to two huge interconnected issues. First, there's sin, which is basically defined as disobeying divine law, and then there's its ultimate, inevitable result, death.
And this verse is pointed to as Exhibit A for the mission's ultimate goal. Death is presented as the final enemy, the last boss that has to be defeated. Everything in this entire cosmic plan is building towards this one single moment, the total destruction of death itself.
All right, so we've got our agent, the second God, and we've got the problem, sin and death. But how does inheriting our universe actually solve anything?
The mission here isn't just about damage control or learning to live with the problem. No, the goal is total purification. We're talking about completely and permanently erasing sin and death from the very fabric of reality. So how do you pull that off? Well, the logic here explains it through judgment, but it's not about some angry God seeking punishment. The argument is that divine love is actually a form of law. It's expressed as commandments. So when that law is broken, you're not just breaking a rule, you're acting against love itself. And that's sin. Judgment, then, is just the natural consequence for rejecting that fundamental law.
And all of this builds up to the climax of the plan, a clear, step-by-step process designed to take our flawed universe and finally make it perfect. So check out this sequence. Step 1. The second God, playing that temporary role of a creature, bears the cross. Step 2. This ultimate act of loving obedience supposedly perfects the whole idea of free will for anyone who accepts it. Step 3. With free will now perfected, creatures just don't choose sin anymore, so sin basically gets wiped from the system. Step 4. No sin means no consequences, so death and suffering just vanish. And finally, step 5. With all the bugs fixed, creation is at last complete and pure.
And that, my friends, brings us to the grand finale. The mission is a success, and our universe is about to be totally restored.
This verse is kind of like the official mission complete announcement. The second God has defeated every enemy, including the final boss, death, and now hands over the newly perfected universe, the kingdom, back to the first God.
And at this moment, that mind-bending paradox we talked about, it gets resolved. The second God's temporary job as a submissive creature is done, and they're back to being equal with the first God. And now that our universe is finally perfect, the first God can fully inhabit it. Mission accomplished. Which brings us all the way back to where we started. Why inherit time-space? The answer is simple now. It was never about possession. It was a temporary job, a mission to go into a broken system, fix it from the inside, and then hand it back to its source, finally perfect and complete.
So you can see this is a huge cosmic story about purification and completion. But it also kind of leaves us with a pretty deep question, doesn't it? If this whole cosmic drama really is about perfecting free will, what does that say about the importance of the choices we make right here, right now, every single day?